Welcome to the Cool Library. I'm Ellen, your librarian, and as you can tell from the title of this video, we're going to be going over all of the movies that I watched in 2024. I do have a lot of movies to discuss, so I'm going to try to make this go as quickly as possible, but how this is going to go, I'm going to start off with giving you some statistics, because I like statistics, and I like to look at what my watching is like from different angles. And then, because I didn't do a Christmas movie video this year, I filmed one, but I hated it as I was editing it, so I stopped. I will be adding my Christmas movies within this video, and I will discuss some of them. And then I will go on to the non-Christmas movies, and we will discuss that. Also, my Christmas movies are going to be added within my stats, but I think next year I want to keep them away from my stats. But just know, a lot of my stats include a lot of the Christmas movies that I watched towards the end of the year. And also, when I discuss my movies, as well as my Christmas movies, I will be talking about them in order from my least favorite to my favorite. Okay, so I watched a total of 151 movies. I watched a lot of movies. And as you can tell, most of them were at the end of the year because that was where I was trying to watch as many Christmas movies as I could, and I would watch at least one a day. And then here's that same thing, but in minutes watched, and it pretty much looks the same as the amount of movies that I watched. But I watched a total of 14,973 minutes of movies. Now, the length of the movies, most of the movies I watched were between 90 minutes to 120 minutes, and that's typical because that's between an hour and a half to 2 hours. Pretty much all of my under 90-minute movies are Christmas movies, or at least most of them are, and then a few that were over 2 hours. I watched a total of 11 different genres, the main one being romance. Again, that is going to be a lot of my Christmas movies. But I did also watch a few comedies and action movies. The format that I watched these movies in, it was mainly digital, with TV right behind it. Again, those are gonna mainly be my Christmas movies, although Hallmark and Lifetime Christmas movies specifically. 41 I watched in the theaters, and then there was one movie that I watched physically, like I own it physically, and I watched it for the first time. Now, the specifics of my digital and TV watching, it is mainly Hallmark. But after Hallmark, I have 19 Netflix movies, 15 Prime, and then 11 were Lifetime. 7 that I had watched on a Delta plane, 7 from Hulu, 4 from HBO Max, 3 from Disney+, 2 from Paramount, and 1 from Apple TV. For the movie ratings, most of them were rated TVG. Again, those are going to be the Hallmark Christmas movies, but above that are the R-rated movies. I have 40 of those watched, and then 32 PG-13 movies. The release year is not that interesting because most of the movies I tend to watch are from that year. So almost 90% of my movies were from 2024. Now, my star ratings, here they are. Most of them were 3.5 stars, which then obviously made my average 3.5 stars, unfortunately. So it wasn't a truly great movie watching year, especially since only 3 of these movies were rated 5 stars. It is so hard for me to give movies 5 stars, but I want to try and be better at giving movies 5 stars next year. I want to watch more 5 stars in 2025. The gender of the director is most likely going to be male, as always. It's a male-dominated field, unfortunately, but I do think I watched more women-directed movies than last year, so that's good. The nationality of these directors, it looks like a good 50%, a little more than 50% were American, but the rest were not American. So this is actually better than last year. It seems to be pretty half and half, which I like. The POC of the director, not as great. More than 80% were white. But down below I have the specifics of the POC of the ones that I did watch. It was mainly Black and Asian with some Middle Eastern and Latin. There was also not a lot of LGBTQ+ representation in the movies that I watched. Don't know why more movies aren't doing it, but yeah, a good like 75% were not, did not have LGBTQ+ representation in it. And then of course below I have the specifics of the ones that I watched that had LGBTQ+ representation in it, and it was mainly gay. And then this last stat that I kept track of this year is new, but I don't think I'm gonna do it for next year, but I just wanted to see how many movies I watched were based on true stories, and most of them weren't, but 19 of them were. Okay, now let's go over the Christmas movies that I watched, and these are going to be in order from my least favorite to my favorite, and then I may chat a little bit about the movie, but I don't want to spend too much time on these Christmas movies. Okay, so way at the bottom, my least favorite is Christmas in the Spotlight, for obvious reasons. Above that is Happy Holidays, which was just awful. And then The Holiday Junkie. These were all 1 stars. For me, they were not good. And above that is my 1.5 star, which was Make or Bake Christmas. And then we have some 2 stars. Holiday and Happy Hollow, Sincerely Truly Christmas, A Very Merry Beauty Salon, The Merry Gentleman, Private Princess Christmas, and Trivia at St. Nick's. And that right there was my bottom 10 of Christmas movies for the year. And then for my 2.5s, I have Deck the Walls, Christmas on the Ranch, Christmas Under the Lights, and The 5-Year Christmas Party. I have a good chunk of 3-star movies, starting with A Carpenter Christmas Romance, Christmas on the Alpaca Farm, A Sudden Case of Christmas, Engaged by Christmas, Confessions of a Christmas Letter, All I Need for Christmas, That Christmas, To Have and To Holiday, This Time Each Year, Operation Nutcracker, Trading Up Christmas, Nutcrackers, 5 Gold Rings, Christmas with the Sings, The Christmas Charade, and the last of my 3 stars, An Almost Christmas Story. And now for my 3.5 stars, we're starting with Dear Santa, following Yonder Star, Christmas on Call, Believe in Christmas, A Reason for the Season, 'Tis the Season to be Irish, Santa Tell Me, Debbie McComber's Joyful Mrs. Miracle, Our Little Secret, Holiday Crashers, A 90s Christmas, My Sweet Austrian Holiday, Holiday Mismatch, Jingle Bell Run, 3 Wiser Men and a Boy, and lastly, The Christmas Quest. And now for my 4 stars, we're starting with B.B. Winans' We Three Kings, Sugar Plummed, Leah's Perfect Gift, A Dance in the Snow, Hot Frosty, Red One, 'Twas the Date Before Christmas, Scouting for Christmas, and now we're in my top 10. But still at a 4-star, A Carol for Two, The Finish Line, Carry On, Our Holiday Story, Christmas at Plum Hill Manor. And that's the last of my 4 stars. And now we have my top 5, which are all 4.5 stars. I unfortunately had no 5-star Christmas movies this year. It was very upsetting. So at number 5, I have Novel Noel, Girl at a Bookstore. Yeah, I'm gonna love it. Meet Me Next Christmas at number 4. We had Pentatonic, so I loved it. Number 3 is Holiday Touchdown, A Chief's Love Story. I was shocked that I really liked this one. Like, genuinely shocked. I'm not a Chiefs fan, I'm an Eagles fan, so it feels sacrilege to love this movie, but it did. I mean, it's Tyler Hynes. I love him, along with Andrew Walker. They're my 2 Christmas Hallmark men whom I love so much. At number 2, I have The Santa Class. This was absolutely hysterical. Another person that I love, Paul Campbell, in these Hallmark Christmas movies. Paul Campbell playing himself was just like one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen. And then at number 1, I have The Snow Sister. This was on Netflix. I hadn't heard of it before when I was making my like Christmas movie list. I found out about it very much later on. I think I found out about it in December. And then I was like, well, let me add that. Let me see if I can get to it. Then I watched it. Didn't realize it was a Norwegian movie. So it was all in Norwegian with English subtitles. But oh my God, this movie made me cry. We'll talk about it more later because we're now moving on to my actual movies that I watch. And in these, I do include some Christmas movies. When I talk about my movies, when I discuss my list of movies that I'm about to discuss with you, I don't include the cheesy Christmas romances because I rate those differently, but I do include the Christmas movies that aren't cheesy romances. I don't know why, it's just for me, I can separate the cheesy romance ones, but I can't separate the ones that aren't cheesy. I don't know how else to explain it, but I hope that's okay. So let's move on. Now let's talk about first the bottom 10. All the way at the bottom, we have Descendants, Rise of Red. I gave this 1.5 stars. Like, this was bad, you guys. This was bad. This, like, was just a huge disservice to the Descendants series, which I do love. They're cheesy and they're not great, but I rewatch them constantly because I love them so much. But this one, the songs were bad, the acting was bad, the writing was bad, like everything about this movie was awful and it should have never been made. The only thing that did this movie a saving grace was Rita Ora as the evil queen. That is it. She was so good playing an evil person. But like this movie had so many plot holes. It also was like paced so terribly. I remember getting to the end and I'm just like, okay, so we defeated these people, but like we still have a long way to go and there's only 10 minutes left in the movie. And then just everything wrapped up nicely. And also like defeating the evil people, I'm like, This doesn't make any sense. Plot holes. Plot holes, plot holes, plot holes. I wish I could take those minutes watching this movie back, but I can't. Okay, let's move on. Right above that, though, we have Atlantic Rim Resurrection. This is not supposed to be a good movie. It's meant to be a bad movie. And it's supposed to be a parody of Pacific Rim. But this is the sequel to Atlantic Rim, which I watched a bunch of years ago with some friends. And even though it was terrible, I had a fun time with it. This one, I didn't have a fun time with it. It just was bad. This was also, I believe, the very first movie that I watched this year. Or it was the second movie. No, it was the second movie that I watched this year. Right above that, I have How to Date Billy Walsh. This was just bad. It was mainly the acting, which sucks because there were three people in this movie that I genuinely like. I've seen some of their stuff and they're not bad, but for some reason they were just bad in this. And I think it might have had to do with the writing as well. It was just a bad movie. Above that, I have Lonely Planet. This had some potential to be good, but it just wasn't. And then above that, I have Cocaine Bear. This was the first movie that I watched this year. So maybe when I started off with a bad movie, it just turned to be in a bad movie year. It just turned into being a bad movie year. Wow, I can't talk. So like Cocaine Bear was one of those movies where, you know what, it was like fun at the time and it like had its moments, but overall it just wasn't good. But you know, if a sequel came out, I'd watch it. Then above that, I have Freelance. This, again, bad pacing, bad dialogue, and plot holes. That's it. And then above that, I have Mother of the Bride. To me, this one wasn't too bad. It's just the daughter annoyed me. It was too predictable and too cheesy for my taste. I can handle cheesy and predictable. I can like those. But the way that they did the cheesy and predictable just made me not enjoy it. And above that one, I have You May Not Kiss the Bride. When I watched this, I was in the mood to watch a bad movie, okay? That's what I was going in for. So this was only my fault. I knew this was going to be bad, but it's just, I was like, I want something on in the background that I don't have to pay too much attention to that's going to be a bad movie. So that was what I did, and this is the one I chose. And yes, it was bad, but not as bad as the ones that were below it. Above that, I have Space Cadet. As much as I love romance in movies, this one I think the romance did a disservice to the movie. Like the movie was fine, like it was funny, it had a good premise, but the romance really brought it down. I felt like the romance was inappropriate and not needed. And then it just, I don't know, the writing also was very cheesy, wasn't into it. And then for the top of my bottom 10, I have Shortcomings. This movie I was excited to see. I watched this on a plane because I was like, oh, this is one I was looking forward to. Unfortunately, this made me mad. The main character made me mad. And it's one of those things where, like, you're watching from the main character's perspective, and so you're meant to, like, be on the main character's side, but everything that this main character said and did was pissing me off. And I was like, I don't want to root for him. No, absolutely not. It was just, like, the way he was treating women. I was like, no. Absolutely not. Get yourself together. Okay, now for the other movies, again, in order. So we have a couple of 3 stars here. Which Brings Me to You, Good Grief, Prom Dates, Girl Haunts Boy, Jackpot, A Sudden Case of Christmas, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, Monkey Man, Ricky Stenicki, Uglies, My Spy, The Eternal City, and the last of my 3 stars is That Christmas. Now for my 3.5 stars. I have Lisa Frankenstein, A Family Affair, Dear Santa, Bob Marley, One Love, Sweethearts, Long Gone Heroes, Rumors, Roadhouse, Mean Girls, Roleplay, Upgraded, Beetlejuice, Child Star, Nutcrackers, Challengers, Trap, The Boys in the Boat, Abigail, Irish Wish, Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game, The Crow, Find Me Falling, ISS, Lift, Fly Me to the Moon, and An Almost Christmas Story. Now, for my 4 stars, I have We Live in Time, Inside Out 2, Am I Okay, The Watchers, A Real Pain, Damsel, Caddo Lake, Arthur the King, Getting Lost, Across the River and Into the Trees, Players, Boy Kills World, Red One, Carry On, Saturday Night, Hitman, The Idea of You, Argyle, The American Society of Magical Negroes, It Ends With Us, Venom, Turtles All the Way Down, The Beekeeper, Land of Bad, Honor Society, Anyone But You, Ready or Not, Gladiator 2, Lee, Self-Reliance, The Book of Clarence, Drive Away Dolls, And then the last of my 4 stars is American Fiction. And now we're in my top 14. So at the bottom of my 4.5 stars is Gladiator. And then above that is Inside Out. At number 12, I have Your Monster. I loved this movie so much. I wish it was in my top 10, but it didn't quite make it. Another one that just barely made my top 10, and I'm so upset it didn't, is Dune Part 2. So at number 10 is The Snow Sister. Here it is again. This movie made me cry so much. And it's one of those things where it's like, I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And it hit right here. I was watching that like 9 a.m. in the morning, and I was sobbing. And then I had to go through the rest of my day after watching that movie. But this movie deals with grief. It's a very sad movie about this little boy who, him and his family, they just lost a loved one. He lost an older sister. His parents lost their daughter. Everyone's dealing with the grief differently, and he's really scared that Christmas isn't going to come this year because everyone in the family is too sad. They haven't been doing any of their traditions that they've been doing. He's also been distancing himself from friends, but then he meets this little girl who's new in town, and she is very bright, bubbly, loves Christmas, and just kind of helps him see the joy in life and Christmas again. And it's just really, really sweet and beautiful. So if you want to watch Christmas movies next year and you want to cry, please, please watch this one. At number 9, I have The Fall Guy. I am obsessed with this movie. I love this movie so much. I'm obsessed with Ryan Gosling. He did great in this. Every time Ryan Gosling does a comedy movie, he makes me laugh. He's so good at comedy. But in this, we have Ryan Gosling, who is a stunt double, and he has a crush on the director of this movie, but they have a past, and she is not having it. But the actor that he is stunt doubling for has gone missing, and he has to go and try and find the actor. The action sequences in this are truly fantastic, and I did rewatch it so I can watch the extra 20 minutes of action on Prime, and it was great. At number 8, I have another action movie, and that is Kill. This was... this wasn't the last movie, but this was like the second to last movie that I watched this year, and it was so good. So I wanted to see this movie when it was in theaters, but I didn't quite get to it, and I was happy to be able to watch this digitally. It's a movie about this guy who is in love with this girl. They're in love with each other, they're in a relationship, but they've been keeping it a secret from her family because they don't approve of him. But he is in the military, essentially, so this is also an Indian movie. So it's all in Indian with some English subtitles. And there's an attack on this train that they're all on. These people come on and they're stealing from everyone. They're doing like petty theft, but they've got knives and weapons with them. And then they find our girl's dad, who is a rich man. And they're like, oh, change of plans. And so then our main guy is like, absolutely not. And he goes into full action hero mode. And it's filmed incredibly well. This is like shot so well, but also I got so invested in this story, and they did things that I didn't think would happen, but they made them happen. And it's just truly a fantastic movie. Please go watch it. I'm going to say that with every single one of these movies. At number 7, I have Wicked Little Letters. This I saw with a friend, and it was just like a random, we're like, let's just go to the movies and let's see what's there. And then we're like, oh, Wicked Little Letters. Yeah, I've heard about that. Let's just watch it. Oh my God, this was so funny and really fun to watch. So with this, we have a woman who, also I think this is like taking place maybe early 1900s, and it's in Ireland, I think. And our girl, Olivia Colman, she's been getting these nasty letters. Letters that say such horrible things. And her parents are like, we need to figure out who this is. And they suspect it's their neighbor who is new and kind of talks this way. Like, she's very vulgar. But she's like, it is not me. I'm not the one sending her these letters. I don't like her, but I wouldn't do that. And it's just like this mystery of like, who is sending these letters? And it's just so funny. But it is quite vulgar, so you are warned. There's a lot of cursing and there is some nudity. But no, this was truly fantastic. And speaking of Wicked, at number 6 is Wicked. This is truly a favorite musical of mine. I love the musical Wicked. I remember being obsessed with it from middle school all the way till now, and then the movie came out, and it's been like a new love and obsession. Yeah, so like these songs mean so much to me because I obsessively listened to the album so much growing up. It like shaped a lot of who I was and who I am. And I think Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo really did bring these characters to life so well. And Jonathan Bailey is the perfect Fiero, but also like what did men do to deserve Jonathan Bailey? I will never know. Oh my God, everything he does in everything that he's in makes me just fall in love with him more and more, and it just hurts my heart more and more because I could never have him. But also just the production value of this movie. My jaw was on the floor. I've also seen this movie twice. I did go and see the sing-along version as well. It's a long movie, but it's worth it, and I cannot wait for part 2. At number 5, I have Blink Twice. Blink Twice was a moment. I will say I did not know going into this movie what I was going to be expecting. I was just like, I know it's like semi-horror, but we'll see. I did not realize it was going to be about that. So I just want to warn people before you watch this movie, if this is something triggering for you, because I know some people in my life who this would be triggering for, so I would recommend them not watch this movie, even though it's filmed so well. But there is sexual assault. And you do see the sexual assault, and it is hard to watch. But that's essentially what this movie is about. These men who use these women, drug them, sexually assault them, and then they make the women lose their memories. But these women find out how to not lose their memories, and maybe they fight back. Yeah, no, I this was definitely like a different role for Channing Tatum. I haven't seen him play like a crazy masochistic man, but he did well. And I loved the like colorization of this movie and the way that it was filmed and shot. I was there with her, figuring things out. But yeah, no, Zoe Kravitz directs another movie. I'm gonna watch it. At number 4 is the top of my 4.5 stars, and that is Twisters. It had to be. I watched this movie 6 times in the theaters this year. It had to be in the top. I love this movie. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love Glenn Powell. He is one of my celebrity crushes, along with Jonathan Bailey, of course, and Josh Hutcherson, Dylan O'Brien, Andrew Garfield, so many people. But this was just a really fun movie, and I truly loved everything about it. Like, now that I'm talking about it, I just want to watch it again. I also did do Twisters as my Halloween costume. I was Glenn Powell, and then one of my coworkers was a Twister. Like, fantastic. Yeah, so I kind of became obsessed with this movie. It's just about, people fighting Twisters, and then there's a little romance that goes on as well. Maybe even a love triangle. Okay, at number 3, we have the bottom of the 5 stars, but obviously it is a 5-star, so I love this movie so much, and that is The Wild Robot. DreamWorks does it again. I swear, their animated films are always 5 stars for me. Always. I don't know if they'll do a sequel, because it does end so well, but if they do a sequel, because I know there is a sequel for the books, I would love to watch it. But the animation style was really interesting and really cool. It kind of looked like watercolor paintings. And then, of course, the story was beautiful. I cried. It's just really a story about motherhood. And even though I'm not a mother, it still got to me. It still got to my emotions and just hit me. It's really a beautiful movie. At number 2, I have The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. This is just a movie about these people kicking Nazi butt, and it's wonderful. I loved this. I loved the fight scenes, the fight choreography. I loved the way it was shot. I loved the colorization. I loved the whole like plot of this movie. Like, it's just, even though it is people kicking Nazi butt, there is a plot. And it's also based on a true story. And oh my God, I just want to watch this again. It's so good. Okay, and then number 1, movie of the year. Was not expecting this to be number 1, but it is, and that is White Bird. Sorry, even just thinking about it, I want to cry again. Oh, another movie that deals with Nazis. Anyway, this movie, I was sobbing. I was absolutely sobbing in the theater. I was not embarrassed about it. I was gonna feel those emotions. I never saw Wonder, but this is like a sequel to Wonder. Maybe I shouldn't say sequel. It's more like a companion story to the Wonder movie, which again, never saw, but I do want to see. But this is following Okay, it's kind of following. We have the bully from the Wonder movie. And from what I've learned, he got kicked out of the school that he was the bully of in the Wonder movie. And so he's going to live with his grandmother in France. And his grandmother decides to tell him a story about her and her childhood. And she was a Jewish teenager living in the Nazi era. And this boy who is crippled, him and his family help hide her. And it's just such a beautiful story. And I believe the message, there's a lot of messages to the story, but I think the main message for our boy who is hearing this story is supposed to be accepting of everybody, and that people are capable of love, but they're also capable of hate, but the love will always outshine the hate. So beautiful and so sad. But it truly, truly touched me, and it's one I will remember for forever. And there you have it. Those are my movies from 2024. All of them, from the ones I didn't like to the ones I loved. I also did this same thing for my books of 2024 as well as my TV shows of 2024, which I have linked down below, so please go check those out. And I will see you guys later with more videos. Bye.